What up, cucks? It's your boy the hater. I was feeling a little singy up in this bitch, so I figured I'd expose all of you to it. So here we are, Saturday, and the hater's thinking about how much time has been wasted in wrestling in the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years. But I figured instead of talking about all that, let's talk about the last few years. Namely, let's talk about the unilateral focus, the tunnel vision that WWE has effectively done to itself, right? WWE and the powers that be, mostly Triple H, probably a little bit of Lee Fittings, a little bit of fittings in my life, you know what I'm saying? But also, if we're being honest, Vince McMahon a little bit as well, right? So in the last few years, I don't know the exact timeline, I don't remember to be honest, because it's been an uneventful few years in wrestling, and thus, people have been bored out of their minds, and it all feels like one big blur, right? But basically, since, right after the COVID era, since basically when the Cuckster himself became the WWE champion, and even before that, really, honestly, since the Cuckster came back, right? Since Cucky Rhodes came back, it's pretty much all been downhill. And a big reason for this is the fact that WWE chooses, actively that is, to focus on only one thing and one thing at a time. It's the oddest thing in the world, right? Basically, the last several WrestleManias have been centered around Cucky Rhodes. This last one, arguably, Cena had a role to play in there as well. But really, this is still a continuation of Cucky Rhodes' story. And, even though I don't like, Cucky Rhodes, and I think I speak for a lot of people when I say he sucks balls, and I think I speak for a lot of people when I say nobody likes Cucky Rhodes, the facts are the facts, right? Even if people loved him, even if Cucky Rhodes was awesome, this still wouldn't be okay. If they focused the last 3 years of WWE programming on the storyline of, Stone Cold Steve Austin in his prime, it still wouldn't be okay. Because the problem isn't that it's Cucky Rhodes and not Stone Cold or somebody better. I mean, that's obviously a big part of it. But the bigger problem is just the focus on one thing. When you focus on one thing, typically referred to as putting all of your eggs in one basket, you run the risk of that basket getting fucked. You know what I'm saying? You run the risk of dropping the eggs or whatever the hell you could do to a basket, right? And then you lose all your eggs, right? You see what I'm saying? You lose all of them at the same time. It's the same thing here. You push one person, Cucky Rhodes, and then you run the risk of, God forbid, this person getting hurt, or this person, holding you hostage for more money, or even something that is definitely going to happen and would have already happened, but for the fact that WWE has decided to just go to different countries every couple of weeks. The most likely scenario, right? The fans losing interest in your project. If you have only one project and the fans lose interest in your project, then you got nothing, motherfuckers. Back in the day, right? People focused on multiple things at once. By taking this strategy and moving this strategy forward, people decided to kind of push forward a different narrative. That if, let's just say, on the off chance that the fans do not connect with, Stone Cold or The Rock, well, you have the other one that you can connect with, right? You hate Stone Cold, you like The Rock, right? You hate The Rock, you like Stone Cold. You hate them both, well, you still have Mick Foley, right? You have Triple H, you have Kane, you have The Undertaker, player. You have plenty of people to like. But nowadays, wrestling is presented as a one-man show. And this is not just Cody Rhodes' fault. I think this primarily can be placed on a Cody Rhodes scenario, because I think this is the most jarring example. But the same thing happened really with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns was put forward as this guy that the whole show is basically based around him, right? They started to try to diversify a little bit by having the World Heavyweight title, but nobody ever took that seriously. That never really kind of picked up steam, right? And Roman Reigns, it was like his show, it was his story. Now it's Cucky's story. And the other wrestlers that are there are literally just filler. Like, ask yourself, you think Finn Balor has any reason to exist in WWE aside from the fact that he's filler? Like, what's the difference pragmatically between Finn Balor and, let's say, Otis? Right? There is no difference. Now, obviously, there's differences between who they are as people and as performers, but it doesn't matter, right? It's not like Finn Balor is this guy that has any career perspective at this point, right? Neither is Otis. Neither is Tozawa. And quite frankly, neither is anybody else except for maybe Sami Zayn at this point. Like, Kevin Owens leaves, nobody gives a shit. If LA Knight gets injured tomorrow, God forbid, no one's going to give a shit. I'm not going to give a shit either, and he was, for a long time, my favorite guy in the company. But you can only like someone so much if you don't see them pushed on TV, right? This is one way that they desensitize you to firing people, right? Like when inevitably Carmelo Hayes shows up on AEW, no one's going to give a shit about Carmelo Hayes. No one's going to give a shit when Nakamura inevitably makes his way back to Japan. No one's going to care. Because why would they? You know what I mean? Why would they give a flying fuck about any of this? These guys are not featured, let alone prominently, but they're not featured at all. Like, what was the last feud Nakamura had before he came back as like the samurai gimmick, right? Does anyone even remember? What was the last meaningful thing Nakamura did in this company? I think it was when he was like Sami Zayn's lackey with Cesaro back in the day. From that point forward, basically, since Nakamura failed to beat AJ Styles for the WWE title at WrestleMania like 10 years ago, or whatever the fuck that was, like seven or 8 years ago, right? Since then, Nakamura has done nothing. He's just been there. No one has taken the time to do anything with this guy. They've paid him money for no reason. He hasn't drawn one dime. He has no fans left, because how can you be fans of something as simple as that? Of something as simple as a guy comes out, dances like Michael Jackson, gets his ass beat, and then goes back and tries it again next week for 7 years straight. You know what I mean? For 6 to 7 years, Nakamura, who we were told by everyone, including the WWE, was one of the best wrestlers of all time. They didn't even say he was the best wrestler like at that time, or one of the best wrestlers alive. They straight up said, this is one of the best wrestlers of all time. Come to find out that so was Apollo Crews. So was Sin Cara. And they're all jobbers. Now, I'm not saying, again, a lot of people get caught up in this shit, right? Like a lot of people, for example, think that Carmelo Hayes, and I know he's going to go down incorrectly as this missed opportunity, right? I personally don't see anything special in anyone that's been in NXT in the last 5 years, but let alone like Carmelo Hayes, or Karrion Kross, or Ilya Dragunov. These are just filler guys, right? But the fact is, even as filler guys, you would think some of them would get something written about them. They would have some sort of storylines. But no, the entire focus rests squarely in what's it called? In the shoulders of Cucky Rhodes. And shoulders they are. You know what I mean? Shoulders they are. Cucky Rhodes is out there trying to carry this company forward. And sometimes I feel almost bad for him, because it's not his fault that he can't carry the entire company on his shoulders. That's a lot to ask for, right? Now, he doesn't have to do it alone, because the roster gets bigger and bigger every year. But the problem is, it really just is like 2 or 3 guys, and then everyone else is just a filler jobber. Even in the UFC, right, which has multiple champions and is a real sport, even in the UFC, there are people that are not main event types, like Justin Gaethje or Dustin Poirier, right? These are not champions, right? They'll get infinite title shots, but they're not champions. Like, they would be like the upper mid-carders of UFC, right? But these guys are stars in the UFC. These guys are big deals. The UFC does a good job looking at someone that's on the rise and making them a prospect, so that when someone becomes champion, it almost never is like a random act and this unexpected situation, right? They promote the guys at the bottom too, if they think these guys at the bottom have any chance of success. And when they realize that someone is on the way up and they might become a big deal, what they do then immediately is they promote this guy, and then they put him on a path, right? They put him on a path. They're like, oh, okay, we see like Hamzat Chimaev is doing good, right? So let's put him on like a 3, 4, 5-year path to become champion one day, right? They don't rush it because if they rush it, they could have like a bullshit champion. WWE does none of these things. WWE does a very condensed version of this. Basically, what they do is they pick someone, let's say Cookie Rhodes, and they say, we're going to make this guy the next big thing. And we're going to do this over, let's say, like a 3.5-year period, culminating at WrestleMania 40, right? Cool, no problem. They do this, then what happens? What happens next is everything else gets abandoned, right? They put minimal effort. Like Seth Rollins, he's one of the ones that gets some effort put into him, but look at the effort and look at the fruits of the labor, right? Seth Rollins gets put into multiple little bullshit factions, all of which fail miserably. The latest one being The Vision. But he also had the one with AOP and Buddy Murphy and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's a bunch of failed things again and again. So Seth Rollins is a great example because over the years, he's been like the visionary, the messiah, the this, the that. But everything he's done has been meaningless, filler bullshit. Roman Reigns is the guy. Everyone else was completely secondary. Roman Reigns was the guy for like 5 years. Then Cody Rhodes came, and he's like on his 3rd, 4th year, depending on how you count, of being like the guy. You know what I mean? So now it's going to be time soon to find the next guy. But that might take some time. So with all that being said, we find ourselves in a scenario where like it's going to be time to start writing for like the next guy again. But this would be an opportunity for them to kind of reshift the focus into something else. Change the focus into not just writing for one guy, but perhaps writing for multiple guys, right? Try to make more than one star at a time. Because like it's not even 1 star a year. That would be manageable. If you can make 1 star a year, in 5 years you have 5 stars. Nowadays, you make 1 star every 5 years, and that star leaves, and you're left with nothing. And you don't have anybody in the backup. Like imagine if, let's just say, for example, God forbid, Roman Reigns and Cookie Rhodes both, and CM Punk, let's say as well, because he's not a star, but he's like, he's almost done basically. But, if these guys, God forbid, just like die in a plane crash, right? Then what? Basically, wrestling's done because you don't have anybody else, right? When you can have like a tournament and LA Knight's going to be crowned the champion? No, the company's basically over. You have nobody else that can pick up the slack. And quite frankly, it's only Cody Rhodes because everybody else is just there once every 3 weeks anyways. So I think I made my point. That's how it is, and that's how it's going to be. Cucks this. Take care of yourselves and go, well, I was going to say go fuck your mothers, but let's be a little less crass. Go fuck your own asses. How about that? Cucks this.